There's something that happens hundreds of times a day, and I'm not sure anyone really catches it. You decide to reach for your phone. You decide to take a sip of water, and in the moment it happens, it feels obvious that you made the choice, that someone in there waited and picked, but the hand was already moving toward the cup before the word drink showed up. The thought I should check the time arrived already formed. You didn't assemble it, you noticed it, and by the time something inside said yes, this is what I want, it was already underway. So maybe what's happening isn't quite what it looks like. Maybe you're not catching the choice. You're catching the moment it gets claimed. I'm not going to teach you anything in this video. I'm going to point at something I've been noticing, something that, once you see it, is hard to unsee. If something here lands, this channel exists for this kind of listening. No teaching, no fixing, just pointing at what's already here, in different ways, until something quietly gives. Stay with me for a few minutes. The reason this slips by isn't because it's hidden. It's because the mind is fast, faster than you'd believe if you sat down and tried to time it. By the time a decision rises into awareness, by the time there's a you who feels like they're deciding, the whole thing has already been arranged underneath. Muscles primed, direction set. The verdict has been reached. What shows up in consciousness is the announcement, not the deliberation. And then something stranger happens. The mind, almost instantly, writes a story over the top. I chose this. I considered, and then I chose. That story feels like memory, but it's being assembled in the same instant you're claiming it. You're not remembering a decision. You're constructing the experience of having made one after the fact, so that the action you just took has someone behind it. And you can't catch this happening. The seam is invisible. The mechanism doing the claiming is the same one you'd use to look. So it always slips. There's something almost tender about that. The way the mind hurries to give the action an author. I'll come back to it. For now, notice. And this is the part that's strange. There's no moment you can point to where the chooser sits. You can find the thought. You can find the action. You can find the small flush of agreement. The yes, that's what I want. But the one who would be doing the choosing, separate from the thought, separate from the body, sitting somewhere weighing, when you look for him, he isn't quite there. Watts said it cleanly once. To awaken to who you are requires letting go of who you imagine yourself to be. And the one you imagine yourself to be, more than anything else, is the chooser, the decider behind the eyes, the one running the show. I'll tell you something. The first time I took that line of his seriously, I assumed he was talking about ego, or about pride, or some psychological thing about self-image. I missed it for years. It didn't occur to me he might be pointing at something much simpler. The chooser, the one I assumed was in here, doing all of this. The one I'd never thought to question because he felt like the floor of everything else. Look for him now. While I'm talking, there are these words. There's the noticing of them. There's whatever just rose in response, agreement, doubt, a small flicker of resistance. Maybe the thought, yes, I see what he means, or no, this isn't quite right. Where in any of that is the one doing it? Not who's hearing, there's hearing. Not who's noticing, there's noticing. The one doing the hearing, the one separate from it, watching the words come in and choosing how to respond. Look for that one. Look directly. Most people, when they actually try, find their attention reaching out to grab something that keeps not being there. The thought is already there. The noticing is already there. The agreement is already there. And the one who's supposedly doing all of this, late, always late, showing up afterward with a clipboard, signing off. There's something here you've never really questioned. It seemed too obvious to question. The idea that there's someone behind your eyes who's making your life happen. That underneath all the experience, there's a small operator, a captain at the wheel. That if the captain went away, the ship would stop, or drift, or sink. But the ship isn't being steered the way you think. It's already moving. It's been moving the whole time. The captain you keep looking for is a story the ship tells about itself. And here's what's odd. When you actually see this, even for a second, nothing collapses. You don't fall apart. You don't become passive. The hand still reaches for the cup. The thought still rises about checking the time. Someone still decides what to make for dinner. The kid still gets picked up from school. Life continues to do exactly what it was already doing. The only thing that changes is the lie about who's doing it. I think part of what makes this so hard to see is how tired the chooser already is. If you've been on any kind of spiritual path for a while, you know the exhaustion, the endless deciding. What to do, what to feel, what to fix, what to let go of. The chooser working overtime, trying to choose his way to peace. And the irony is that the tiredness comes from the choosing. The captain doesn't get to rest because he believes he's holding the ship together. Earlier, I said there was something tender about the way the mind hurries to claim the action. I think I see what it is. It's afraid. The whole machinery of selfhood is afraid that if no one is steering, no one is here. That if there's no chooser, there's no you. That losing the captain means losing the ship. But the ship was never the captain. The chooser was just a smaller story, stitched into the middle of something much larger that was already happening. Watts pointed at this in a way I keep coming back to. He said, "You are something the whole universe is doing, in the same way that a wave is something the whole ocean is doing." Sit with that for a moment. Let it land as a description of what's actually here, not as poetry. The wave doesn't choose to rise. The wave is the ocean rising in that spot. You could ask the wave, who decided you'd crest right here? And there'd be no answer that wasn't just the ocean. The wave isn't being controlled. There's no separate wave to control. There's the ocean, doing what oceans do, and a shape we call wave, appearing in it. And here's the part that took me a while to absorb. No water actually travels with the wave. The water stays where it is. What moves is the pattern, the energy, the shape going through the water. So when you ask the wave, what are you really? There's no answer that separates the wave from the ocean. The wave is the ocean, waving, and nothing inside the wave is steering. Nothing inside the wave is choosing where to crest. The cresting is the ocean. The choice you think you made is the universe choosing in your shape. You're not a puppet. There's no puppet, and no one pulling the strings. The line you tried to draw between you and what's happening, that line was never solid. It was drawn in water. Honestly, I don't know if I've fully landed in this. I notice the chooser flickering back on, hour by hour. I notice myself claiming, but every time I look for him directly, he's not where I left him, and something quietly keeps relaxing. like a fist I didn't know was clenched. So watch the next one. Not the dramatic decisions, the small ones, the hand reaching, the eye glancing, the thought rising about whether to keep watching. See if you can catch the one who's choosing, not the choice, the chooser. See if he shows up when you look. Most people, when they look carefully, find that he doesn't. They find the choosing happening. They find the thought arriving. They find life moving. But the one who would be doing the moving, he's quieter than they expected. Or maybe he was never there to begin with, and the quietness was what had been there underneath the whole time. There's a peace that opens up here if you don't flinch from it. It's not the peace of giving up. It's the quietness of stopping a war you didn't know you were in. You've been trying to be the author of every moment, and every moment was already writing itself. You can put the pen down. The page goes on being written. Maybe not how you would have written it, but it goes on. The breath comes. The next thought is already arriving. The body does what bodies do, with or without your permission. None of it was waiting on you to make it happen. If something in this opened, there are other videos here that keep pointing at it from different angles. You'll find them when you need them. If what you call me deciding is just another movement appearing, already in motion before I arrive, then who is the one who's been so tired from making all the choices?